Well, good morning. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, the 24th of February. We have 5 more days, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. Yeah, 5 more days in February. And then we are in March. And then once we hit March, we're pretty much halfway through. It's the equinox. Yeah. And I think we'll have a full moon. Well, of course. No. Yeah. We'll have a full moon. We're probably at about, 10%, 25%? I don't know. In another week, maybe 10 days, we'll have a full moon. And then that's not the full moon before Easter. Then we've got the other full moon, which is before Easter, and then we have Easter. So we've got a little bit to go. But thanks for joining me this morning. Beautiful day out this morning, 53 degrees for me. I don't know about you. And it wasn't that windy. Yesterday, it seemed like in the evening it calmed down a little bit, but in the morning, oh my goodness, it was windy. And we get a lot of wind here in Vail. So people will say that it's not windy at their house, and then they'll come to church on Sunday morning, and the wind just continues to blow everything away. It's pretty wild. Let's see. We don't have any birthdays today. Our next birthday isn't for another couple days. So I'm going to close out that screen. You don't see that screen anyway. So I'm going to close out that screen. And I guess we can go and get into our study. We are in the book of Deuteronomy, and this is Moses speaking to the Israelites before they cross over into the promised land, cross over the Jordan River, deep and wide. And although I don't think it's all that deep and wide, I'm gonna go to the Jordan River at some point. I'd like to do a baptism in the Jordan River. That would be really cool. Fly into Amman, Jordan, travel down over to the river. I don't know if it's like, I don't know how big it is. I've seen pictures of it, but it doesn't look all that doesn't look all that threatening. But I'm sure it is. Anyway. And let's see, what else? Well, and it comes from the Sea of Galilee. So the Sea of Galilee forms the Jordan River. That's the headwaters. And then it goes into the Dead Sea. So that's that. It's an interesting thing. The Dead Sea is dead because it doesn't have an outlet. And so all the water goes into the Dead Sea and it just kind of sits there and stagnates. And so the salt content is really high in the Dead Sea. And that's why they call it the Dead Sea, because there's really nothing alive in it. The salt content is too high. But from the Sea of Galilee, it has headwaters coming into it, and then it exits out into the Jordan River. So it's a better sea. And, it's where Jesus grew up. See, I'd love to see the Sea of Galilee. I'd like to see Peter's house, all the different things that, and you don't know. Well, that's a big tangent. All right, we are in Deuteronomy. We're in Deuteronomy, and Moses is telling all the Israelites all the things they should do if they're going to be the people of God. And so he's been telling them to love God and to keep his commandments. And now we're going to move into chapter 12, where he's going to talk a little bit more about keeping the commandments of God and what that looks like. And so let's start reading at chapter 12, verse 1. These are the decrees and laws you must be careful to follow in the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given you to possess, as long as you live in the land. Destroy completely all the places on the high mountains, on the hills, and under every spreading tree where the nations you are dispossessing worship their gods. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and burn their Asherah poles in the fire. Cut down the idols of their gods and wipe out their names from those places. So God is a jealous God, and he wants only him to be worshiped. So if you are going to be a child of God, you worship him and him alone, which means that when you possess the land, when God says, okay, this is your land, you have to scour the land and find out where were the places that they worshiped their gods. And you go into those places and you smash down their altars and you smash down all the artifacts. I liken it to the grottos that you'll see along the side of the road where somebody will have died and they'll place a bunch of candles or pictures or whatever. They're sacred places. And those grottos are not to be worshipped. Those are to remember the people who died there. Typically, there was an accident and somebody died, and that's what they'll do. There's one in our family. My niece died, 20 years ago. She was 18. And it was 2009, and she was 18. And she was killed in a car wreck in Houston, Texas. And so the family put up a little shrine, I guess you could say, a little thing, which was in a very challenging location, actually. And it might still be there today. I have no idea. And that was because her friends, the friends that she went to school with, just missed her terribly, and they wanted to remember her and that sort of thing. And so they built, I wouldn't say shrine, but I guess you could say a little grotto to her. And so these pop up all the time. And she's not buried there. She's actually in a cemetery where she's buried somewhere else. And but the shrines to the foreign gods would be all over Israel. And since God is a jealous God, he wants the Israelites to go in and to destroy it all. This is not, because if you destroy it, then the people won't come there. I mean, and you're probably going to have to do that for a generation or two, until the people that used to go there and worship those gods all die off, or they're too old and they can't make it to those shrines anymore, or those grottos anymore. So, and it wasn't just, it was typically at a high place on a mountain, right? It's on hills. It's under trees. I mean, they can be almost anywhere, and you go and you find them, and we're only going to worship God. We're not going to worship Him in these grottos. We're going to worship Him in one place. And what is that? Well, let's see. Let's see if we can find here, verse 4. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, but you are to seek the place the Lord your God will choose from among all your tribes to put His name there for His dwelling. To that place you must go. There bring your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, what you have vowed to give, and your freewill offering, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. There in the presence of the Lord your God, you and your family shall eat and shall rejoice in everything you have put your hand to, because the Lord your God has blessed you. So this is going to be more of a sacred spot. We know that in Judah, they ended up building the temple on, the Jews, historically, it's on Mount Moriah. And if you know anything about Mount Moriah, that is where Abraham went to sacrifice Isaac. And God came and provided a lamb, and so there was no sacrifice. The lamb was the sacrifice. And that's where Abraham lived, in the land of Canaan. And then the famine came and they moved to Egypt. They got slavery into Egypt. And now they're coming right back to where Abraham was. That's in Judah. The tribe of Judah has Jerusalem in it. And they Solomon builds a temple. And that temple is on a hill. And that hill is Mount Moriah. And it's like full circle. It's kind of, when you think about it, it's really kind of cool that it all started at Mount Moriah, where God made the promise to Abraham that He would make him a great nation. And then He tells Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac. And he's like, how can I be a great nation if I sacrifice my son? But God provides a lamb. And then it goes full circle and he comes back, and that's where they worship God. Now, the Samaritans, in the United Kingdom, where David is king over both the northern and southern kingdom, they would worship in Jerusalem. But when they become divided, then you have the kingdom to the north, which is Israel. The kingdom to the south is Judah. The kingdom to the north is Israel, and they worship at Mount Gerizim. And that's where the Samaritans worship. And The Samaritans have a place where they worship God. The Judas, the Judah, the Judah, the Jewish, the kingdom to the south, Judah. What would you call those people? Samaritans, Judans? I don't. Yeah, the Jews, I guess. They're south in Jerusalem at Solomon's temple, which gets destroyed and then rebuilt, and then it gets destroyed again 70 AD, and it's not there anymore. But that was the place, and they would come and do the sacrifices, the animal sacrifices, and they would give their burnt offerings and their bread offerings and all the different offerings that you see that God wants. All of this happens at the temple in Jerusalem, or eventually in Mount Gerizim. Although the Jews to the south in Judah the southern kingdom does not see the northern kingdom as following God. They're cousins, and they come. I mean, it's all Abraham stuff, but they fight each other because First Baptist Church, Second Baptist Church type of stuff. We are the true followers of God, not you. All right. Judeans. Oh, thank you. Judeans. Okay, that makes sense. Judeans, yeah. We're Vales, so we're Valians. So yeah, Judeans. Judahites, Judeans. Okay. All right, let's go to verse 8. You are not to do as we do here today, everyone doing as they see fit, since you have not yet reached the resting place and the inheritance of the Lord your God is giving you. But you will cross the Jordan and settle in the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, and he will give you rest from all your enemies around so that you will live in safety. I'll just pause there. Give you rest. Everybody wants rest. We all want to get to a place where we have rest, where we don't have to worry anymore. And what is it that we worry about? Well, when you're young, you worry about, what job am I going to have? Is it going to be a job that is going to sustain me through my life? What training do I need to get that job? And will it be around? And I tell you, for kids graduating today in high school, this is the biggest question that it's ever been, because we know that AI and robotics and all of these things are going to displace a lot of jobs. There will still be jobs. I guarantee you. We just don't know what those jobs are yet. And so I would say to anybody in high school, sure, pursue a career, but be very, very flexible, because there is a good chance that sometime in your career, it may change. The job may rely heavily on AI or robotics, and you might be a person that uses AI and robots and programs them or directs them or whatever. I guarantee you that will always be jobs, because people always want more and more and more. The human desire is insatiable. So you can figure out what it is that you can do. Maybe it's giving a human massage to some. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But there will always be jobs. The question is, what will those jobs be? And so if you're high school, you worry about your job. If you're older, you worry about your kids. When you're working, you worry about, if you're pleasing your boss. If you are the boss, you're worried about, making sure the company is profitable. And then, the goal for Americans today, the goal is to get to retirement, right? I mean, get to retirement where you have enough money to comfortably survive. You don't have to worry about food and clothing and shelter anymore. But you don't have to wait 65 years for that. I mean, you can't. I mean, you can, but really. God provides. I mean, I think we all want to get to a state in our life where we just don't worry. And if your faith is in a God that has the cattle of 1,000 hills, you don't have to worry about anything because he's with you. And yeah, it might mean that you might have to change careers or change jobs or change locations or, change a lot of things in your life, but God's with you in the change. And there's a million ways that you can survive in any economy, but sometimes it requires change, and change for the human condition, change is challenging. I can guarantee you that. Change is dramatically challenging, but if you're willing to make a change, you can survive almost anything. And if you're clinging to an unchangeable God, then you just hold on to his hand and say, okay, God, you take the wheel. I'm just following along. And once you get to that point in your life, that is where true security comes from. It's not financial security, although you could be financially secure. It's not locational security, although you might have a location that you're living in that you feel secure in. It might be health. But just knowing that God's got you no matter what is the true security. And that can happen at any time. You don't have to wait till you're a certain age for that to happen. That happens when, in God's timing. Let me put it that way. In God's timing, he gives you that sense of security that, no matter what happens, you're with him. And those are the people that, they're able to do what God wants them to do, even in the face of persecution. You think about the English Reformation and how they killed those guys, and they stood firmly in God, and they were quite comfortable and they were quite content because they knew. They're going to go to the fire and be burned, but they knew who their God was, and they knew that they'll be with him forever. They're fine. Okay, that was a verse up to verse 10. Let's do verse 11. Then to the place the Lord your God will choose as a dwelling for his name. There you are to bring everything I command you, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes, your special gifts, and all the choice possessions you have vowed to the Lord. And there rejoice before the Lord your God, you and your sons and your daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levites from your towns who have no allotment or inheritance of their own. Be careful not to sacrifice your burnt offerings anywhere you please. Offer them only at the place the Lord will choose in one of your tribes, and there observe everything I command you. And so for the southern kingdoms, for the Judeans, it is the Mount Moriah, where the temple exists, where Solomon's temple exists. But before the temple exists, then they would put the Ark of the Covenant and that whole all that equipment there and worship at that sanctuary, the tabernacle. Okay, let's go on to verse 15. Nevertheless, you may slaughter your animals in any of your towns and eat as much of the meat as you want, as if it were gazelle or deer, according to the blessings the Lord your God gives you. Both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat it. But you must not eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground like water. You must not eat it in your own towns, the tithe of your grain and new wine and olive oil, or the firstborn of your herds and flocks, or whatever you have vowed to give, or your freewill offerings or your special gifts. Instead, you are to eat them in the presence of the Lord your God at the place the Lord your God will choose, you and your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levites from your towns. And you are to rejoice before the Lord your God in everything you put your hand to. Be careful not to neglect the Levites as long as you live in your land. So this is what God says. You can eat deer. You can eat gazelle. I've never tasted gazelle, but you can eat it. The only thing is you have to, if there is a portion of this that has been set aside as an offering to God, that has to be done at the place where the temple is, or where the place where God chooses. But you can't drink the blood. Why can't you drink the blood? Well, the blood offering, if you know anything about some of the Baal worshipers, blood was a big deal. They would drain the blood and drink the blood, and they felt that there was life energy in the blood. And I think this still goes on in pagan practices around the world, where they'll kill an animal and they'll drink the blood. And they believe there's a life energy force in that blood. That God says, no, the life energy force doesn't come from the blood. That's the created. The life energy force comes from me and my spirit. That's where it comes from. And so don't drink the blood. He just wants them to not associate blood with him. And so basically the blood gets poured down into the ground, and you can eat the meat. But if there's anything that's to be sacrificed, whether it's oil or grain or meat or bread or whatever, that has to be done at the place that God says. And that ends up, for the Judeans, ends up being down in the temple. As I read this, it sounds like God may have had multiple places that you could worship him, as long as the Levites were there and that the Levites were in charge of the offering. So in order for you to have a place to worship, you needed a people from the Levites that would minister to and be in charge of the place where they're going to do these sacrifices. And eventually, in the southern kingdom, in Judah, it all happens at Jerusalem, and all the Levites congregate around Jerusalem, and all the sacrifices are done in Jerusalem in the temple. So when you say that they also worshiped on Mount Gerizim, as I read this, as long as there was a Levite there that was ministering at that location, and that you were worshiping the one true God and giving him your offerings and following the 10 commandments and following the Old Testament commandments, that would be an acceptable thing to do. But probably, as happens in religion, over time, Jerusalem said, we're the true place. And so if you really want to worship God, you have to come here. And then that would mean a journey, a pilgrimage, if you will, to that location to worship God there, where there's true worship, I guess you could say. And but it doesn't seem to me as if God said it would be exclusively at one location. As I read this, it's still open to being several locations, as long as all the other foreign gods are wiped out, all their Asherah poles and their altars are wiped out, and you have a Levite that ministers to the sacrifices or attends to the sacrifices. All right. Verse 26. But take your consecrated things and whatever you have vowed to give, and go to the place the Lord will choose. Present your burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord your God, both the meat and the blood. The blood of your sacrifices must be poured out beside the altar of the Lord your God, but you may eat the meat. Be careful to obey all these regulations I'm giving you, so that it may always go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is good and right in the eyes of the Lord your God. The Lord your God will cut off before you the nations you are about to invade and dispossess. But when you have driven them out and settled in their land, and after they have been destroyed before you, be careful not to be ensnared by inquiring about their gods, saying, how do these nations serve their gods? We will do the same. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, because in worshiping their gods, they do all kinds of detestable things the Lord hates. They even burn their sons and daughters in the fire as sacrifices to their gods. See that you do all I command you. Do not add to it or take away from it. And this is true. This is probably when Abraham went to sacrifice Isaac and God provided the lamb. I wonder if Abraham had heard about how other nations do human sacrifices. And the fact that he did not sacrifice his son sets the Israelites apart from all the other gods that all the other Canaanites worshipped. And that Israel then became their primary thing is that they don't do human sacrifices. And if you know anything about the history of the church, long before the Reformation, is when they started exploring new worlds, like they came here into the Americas or they went down into South America or whatever. If they encountered a culture that did human sacrifices, they would not allow. They were a more powerful force. They would allow a lot of things, but the one thing they would not allow would be a human sacrifice. That is what separates. That is one of the main things that separates Christianity from all the other religions as far as practices go. We do not do human sacrifices, although we did do one human sacrifice, and that was Jesus. And that human sacrifice was enough for all the sacrifices of all time. If you read in Hebrews, it says that the reason why blood of bulls and goats is pleasing to God is because it was a understanding of a perfect sacrifice. All these Old Testament sacrifices were a precursor to the perfect sacrifice of Jesus on the cross. That's what Hebrews says, and so sacrifice does happen. A human sacrifice does happen, but it's Jesus that's the human sacrifice, and because of him, no other human sacrifices are ever needed. All right. Yeah, and don't look at what the foreign gods do. Do what I tell you to do. Follow me. Follow my commandments. This is follow my decrees, and then you'll be my people, and it will go well with you. If you follow and do what I tell you, it will go well with you. And if you don't do what I tell you, it will not go well with you. And of course, that's the story, is that they didn't. So it didn't go well with them. All right, so we'll leave it there, and let's close in prayer. Gracious God, thank you for this day, and fill us with your grace and peace all day until we meet again. In Jesus' name, amen. So next week, just so you know, this Thursday, we do the Red Letter Challenge again. So you should be reading... what should you be reading? You should be reading. I guess you should be, by this Thursday, you should have read devotions 1 through 5. Yeah. And then we'll read devotions 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for the following week. So you should be in the middle of reading devotions 1 through 5. And then when we get together Thursday, we'll talk about being, which is the first characteristic that's part of this devotional series. And we'll spend some time talking about that. And then next week, we will not meet on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but we will get together on Thursday. I'll be back by Thursday, and we will do the next one, which is that forgiving? I think being, forgiving, serving, giving, and going. I think those are the 5. Pretty sure those are the 5. So that's kind of what the schedule is, and hope you can join me for that one. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna basically watch a video. We'll open it up to if you've learned anything, and then we'll watch a video. And then we'll open it up to other comments. I've got a little Bible study that I'll do, and then that's what we'll do. All right, so that's kind of, if you're joining me for Red Letter, that's this Thursday. Be reading devotions 1 through 5. Okay, and I think that's all I got for you today. Hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you later. Take care. God's blessings. Bye.